In this video, I'd like to show a better way to do RAG within n8n than this setup that you might have seen, which consists in having one tool that is the vector store that the AI agent will directly use to answer questions. This setup works if I ask what is a cell, considering that the knowledge base that I've vectorized is a biology course. It will answer a simple question like this. Now, one of the limits of this setup is that you don't have control over the query. Here, you can just set a description for to let the agent know how to use that tool. That's kind of it in terms of controlling what query will be sent to your vector database, and that might be a limitation. Another point is that here it only does a single query per tool call, and there is no way to maybe break the topic down into multiple subqueries in case you get a more complex case provided by the user. Also, whenever the user asks a question and the tool is being called, you will get here, in our case, 4 chunks being returned, no matter how close the query and these chunks are, because there is no scoring system and it will anyway pick the 4 closest chunks to return. Even if you asked, when are we having dinner tonight, and it checked this biology course, it will still find some chunks that are a bit close, but really far, and you actually don't want your agent to take this for granted and to actually be biased and think that this is good content. So a system that I would like to present is the following. This time we are not using a simple vector store as a tool directly, but we are using a sub workflow. So as you might know, in n8n you can add a call n8n workflow as a tool for an agent, and then you have a workflow that runs in the background, and the output of that workflow will become the results that the agent will be able to take. So here I'm creating a sub workflow that is actually right there, that basically accepts an array of queries. In the way I configured it, I let the agent know that in this queries field, it is able to send an array of queries between 1 and 5, so it is able to break the topic down into multiple subqueries when it's relevant. That's also the way I prompted this here and in the system prompt as well. So here, with only one tool call, we will already be able to send to our knowledge retrieval flow multiple queries, and the agent here will be able to break complex query down into multiple questions. Let's take an example. I will open the chat and this time ask a more complex question here. We already see that 3 queries have been sent within one tool call, which is very interesting because the agent thought that it first had to define some terms and then ask how they interact together. And it will receive the chunks for each of these questions before being able to craft the final answer. What I've also added here before we dive deep into the sub workflow is also a think tool that the agent will be able to use right after it received here this very nice structured output from this tool call to query the knowledge base. It will use this tool to write a few notes, and we see here what was written. It is able to use that to maybe critically think about what has been returned as chunks, to actually take time to connect the dots and prepare the final answer for the user. So we have an extra step of reasoning that can also increase the response provided by the agent. So if I look into our here our sub workflow execution, and we bring the data in, we see that we received 3 queries in our case, and then I split them out to have multiple items and to then run a loop over each of these items to then this time use a node instead of a tool for this Supabase vector store calling. And here I am able to myself provide the prompt. So here I just mapped it to the query that we have in the loop. And what is really interesting here is that we get a score, which is the similarity score between the query and the chunks that have been returned. So right after that, I will clean up a bit this RAG output to maybe change the name of the keys and also structure a bit the metadata. Here, there are some things that, like from the metadata that Supabase provides natively that I actually don't want to include, for example, that it's text plain or blob, etc. So I'm using here a set node to refine and clean up the outputs. And then I'm using this filter. In our case, nothing has been filtered, but here we make sure that only chunks that have over 0.4 of RAG similarity score can go through. In case for a query we have no chunk that went through, we'll simply return like transparently that for that query nothing was returned. And then we prepare our final output before we aggregate it into a single item that is sent back to the agent, so it is able to craft that final answer. So yeah, I really recommend you give a try to this more advanced structure. I will provide the templates within the description, and yeah, hope you have fun building your RAG workflows with this more advanced technique.